Assalamu alaykum. Dear viewers, today we will talk about a man in the history of Egypt. An evil man who was even more tyrannical and cruel than Pharaoh himself. Because of this wicked man, Pharaoh could not believe in the oneness of Allah Tabarak. Wallah. As a result, Pharaoh died as a disbeliever and a polytheist and entered the hellfire forever. Most people know that Pharaoh was one of the most evil rulers in Egyptian history. He claimed to be God and mercilessly killed the Muslims of Bani Israel. But do you know, behind Pharaoh's claim of divinity, his massacre of the Muslims of Bani Israel, and his denial of the oneness of Allah Tabarak Wa'ala, there was one person who played the biggest role. This man is mentioned by Allah in the Noble Quran by the name of Hammon. Dear viewers, in today's video, we will tell you who Hammon really was. Pharaoh's closest friend and his most trusted minister. We will also share how Pharaoh and Hammon met and how Hammon helped Pharaoh in his cruel acts against the Muslims of Bani Israel. Beloved friends, before we continue, if you are new to our channel, don't forget to subscribe. Allah Tabarak Wa'ala has mentioned a man in 6 different places in the Noble Quran. According to scholars of Tafsir, Hammon was a title given to the ministers of Egypt. Just as every king in Egypt was called Pharaoh, every minister was called Hammon. In some narrations, it is mentioned that Hammon was not just a title, but the actual name of the man who was the minister of the Pharaoh during the time of Prophet Musa alayhi salam. This is the same Hammon whom Allah Tabarak Wa'ala has mentioned in the Noble Quran. Dear viewers, Hammon was originally a common resident of Egypt. His first meeting with Pharaoh happened when Pharaoh left his place in search of work. At one point during his journey, Pharaoh met Hammon. This meeting quickly turned into a close friendship, and in this way both of these wicked men became best friends and lifelong partners in evil. Pharaoh was the man who claimed to be God and tortured the people of Bani Israel endlessly. To guide him, Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala sent Prophet Musa alayhi salam as a messenger. And to support Prophet Musa alayhi salam in this mission, his own brother Prophet Harun alayhi salam was also granted prophethood. It is said that the name of Pharaoh's father was Masab, and his grandfather's name was Malik Rayyan. Some say Pharaoh's full name was Masab bin Wal bin Rayyan, and he lived for 400 years. During this long life he never fell sick, not even a headache, and no enemy was ever able to defeat him. He was called Pharaoh because he ruled over Egypt, and all the kings of Egypt were known by this title. Another reason for this title was his claim of divinity. He used to say to people, "Bow down to me, I am your God." Whoever refused to bow, he would have them killed. Because of this arrogance, Allah Ta'ala afflicted him with trials. But when he still didn't repent, he was destroyed. It is mentioned that Pharaoh was born in the city of Balkh. From there he set out on a journey for sightseeing and eventually reached a city called Bashkana. There he met a man named Hammon, who was a resident of that city. Hammon asked him, "Who are you? Where have you come from? And where are you going?" Pharaoh told him his name and said, "I'm traveling just for the sake of exploring." Hammon replied, "Then let me join you. I will also travel with you and enjoy the journey." So both of these wicked men continued their journey together and eventually reached Egypt. At that time, it was the season of melons. Due to hunger, they both entered a field and asked the melon farmer for something to eat. The owner said, "I will give you food, but on one condition, you must take my melons to the city and sell them. In return, I will give you something to eat as your wage." So Pharaoh left Hammon behind and loaded bags full of melons onto donkeys and began walking toward the city. When he reached the city gate, the guard standing there stopped him and asked, "What's in these bags?" Pharaoh replied, "These are melons." The guard then said, "Leave some melons here and you can go." Pharaoh answered, "These belong to my master. He gave them to me to sell, and I am his servant. I cannot give anything away for free without his permission." The guard warned, If you don't leave some here, you will not be allowed to enter the city at all." Pharaoh had no other choice, so he gave the guard a few melons as a bribe and was allowed to enter. Inside the city, things were no different. As soon as he went in, soldiers patrolling the marketplace stopped him. They asked him about himself and his goods. When Pharaoh explained, they did the same thing the gate guard had done. They demanded some melons too. With what remained, he began looking for a suitable place to sell the melons. But no shopkeeper would allow him to sit in front of their shop without giving something in return. So once again, Pharaoh gave away some melons and sat in front of a shop to sell the rest. The shopkeeper said to him, "People here quickly buy fruits, vegetables, and other things, but they don't pay with money. If someone has goods, they will trade with you. They will give you the same amount of goods in return for yours. No money will be exchanged." He continued, "Even if your goods are worth more, you will only get equal value in return. This is how trade works in our city." So Pharaoh traded all the melons for different items and then returned to the field. He gave everything he had earned to the field owner, returned the donkeys and said, "I didn't like this work." Then he walked back toward the city and submitted a petition to the king of Egypt. He said, "I am a poor stranger. Please allow me to stay in this city." Some people said that when he saw the condition of the city, instead of going back, he decided to stay. He made his home in a graveyard. After just a few days, some people came to dig a grave. Pharaoh told them, "I am the caretaker of this graveyard. If you want to dig a grave here, you must give me a gold coin. Only then will I allow you to dig." The people were shocked and said, "How is this possible? Just a few days ago, there was no such rule." Pharaoh replied, "From now on, this is how it will be. I am the graveyard's caretaker. Without my permission, you cannot dig graves or bury anyone unless you pay me a gold coin." Left with no option, the people gave him a gold coin and dug the grave. After that, it became common that Pharaoh lived in the graveyard and collected one gold coin from everyone who came to bury someone. People said he used to charge based on the status of the dead person. It is mentioned that once a plague spread through the city and many people died. This brought Pharaoh a lot of wealth. Once the minister of the city died, when the king's courtiers brought the body for burial, Pharaoh asked, "Who has died?" They replied, "The minister of the city." Pharaoh then demanded money. The people were shocked and said, "What kind of rule is this?" Pharaoh answered, "I am the caretaker of this graveyard. I've been here a long time, and I collect this fee from everyone." When the people of the city heard this, they confirmed it was true. They said, "Yes, he has been here for a long time and takes money from everyone who comes to bury someone." The courtiers then took Pharaoh and presented him before the king of Egypt, informing the king of everything. The king asked Pharaoh, "What is this matter? Who appointed you to this job?" Pharaoh then narrated everything from the beginning, how he came to the city and what kind of situations he faced. After telling the full story, he respectfully said, "When I saw how the city worked, it seemed like there was no law or order here. Everyone with power was taking advantage of others. I was a poor stranger. I didn't even have the strength to sit in the marketplace. So I sat in the graveyard and started collecting fees. No one stopped me and no one questioned me. No one protested or complained about this action of mine. And considering the situation of the city, even if someone wanted to complain, where would they go? Because even the ones who accepted complaints had to be bribed. So the people thought it better to give a little and get their work done." The king of Egypt noticed Pharaoh's conversation and found him intelligent and far-sighted. So he asked Pharaoh, "If you are given authority, can you improve the conditions of this city Pharaoh agreed and said, "If I am made in charge, I will cleanse the city of all these evils." So the king of Egypt appointed Pharaoh in place of the deceased minister and handed over all the powers of the city to Pharaoh. As soon as Pharaoh was made the minister of Egypt, he called Hammon to the city and appointed him as his companion. After that, Pharaoh stopped all the royal soldiers, guards, and officials from collecting bribes from shopkeepers, traders, and the common people. Then he announced that if anyone has any complaint, they can appear in my court, and their issue will be heard without delay, and justice will be given to them. This decision of Pharaoh made all the shopkeepers, traders, and the general public very happy. They were finally free from paying extra taxes and bribes. Now they could see profit in their business. So in the hearts of the people, love, respect, and admiration for Pharaoh began to grow. Then Pharaoh said to Hammon, "I want the people of Egypt to love me even more. I want my respect in their eyes to increase, so much that they begin to consider me. May Allah protect us as equal to God, and I may declare myself God, and people begin to worship me." Hammon said, "Right now that is not possible. If you truly want this, then slowly take control of the entire city, so that when you make the claim of being God, there are enough people to support you." Then Pharaoh said, "What could be the plan for this? Because the people of this city still follow the religion of Prophet Yusuf bin Yaqub alayhi salam. How can I turn them away from that path?" So they began to think together, and after much thought, they decided on a plan. Pharaoh went to the royal court of Egypt and said, "I want the annual tax that is collected from the people on their goods to be cancelled for 1 year. I'm ready to deposit the full amount of that year's tax into the royal treasury from my own pocket." The king was very impressed by Pharaoh's wisdom and his manner of working. He said, "I don't want a situation where you suffer a loss and I gain profit." So he announced that the people would be exempted from paying taxes for 1 year on behalf of Pharaoh. Pharaoh said, "I don't want the royal treasury to face any loss either. So I will deposit this entire year's tax into the treasury on behalf of the people." The king, being simple-minded, agreed to Pharaoh's request and did not take the yearly tax from the people. He told Pharaoh, "Do whatever you feel is best." Then Pharaoh called the finance officers and asked them how much tax is collected from the people of Egypt in a year. They told him the total amount. Pharaoh took that amount of money and gave it to Hammon to deposit in the royal treasury from his side. After that, an announcement was made throughout the city that the tax for this year has been cancelled by us, and we have already deposited that amount in the royal treasury from our side. In addition to this, a request was made to the royal court to cancel taxes for the next 2 years as well. That request was also accepted. That meant for the next 3 years, no kind of tax would be collected from the people. When this announcement was heard, all the citizens of Egypt became very happy. The poor and needy people prayed for Pharaoh's progress and well-being and thanked. In this way, Pharaoh's generosity and kindness became the talk of the city, and his respect and honor grew in the eyes of the people. Due to this 3-year tax cancellation, the people of Egypt became prosperous. After some time, the king of Egypt passed away, and since he had no heir to sit on the throne and manage the affairs of the kingdom, after his burial for 3 days, the kingdom remained without a ruler. On the 4th day, all the people of the city, judges, scholars, religious leaders, poor, rich, everyone gathered in the royal court. They discussed who should now sit on the throne, because a kingdom without a king is like a body without a head. The people had seen Pharaoh's kindness, that he cancelled 3 years' worth of taxes and deposited that amount into the royal treasury from his own side. Not only that, but he also ended all those illegal collections that the royal soldiers used to loot from the public. So everyone was pleased with him. People began to consider Pharaoh their well-wisher. Seeing his apparent concern for the people, everyone agreed that Pharaoh was the best king for them. So they placed this cursed man upon the throne. When this wretched man became the king of Egypt, he appointed Hammon, the cursed one, as his minister, because it was through Hammon's planning and advice that Pharaoh had reached the throne. Then Pharaoh said, "Now the kingdom of Egypt is completely in our control, and I've become the king here. Amen. Now we must devise a strategy by which people will consider me their God and start worshipping me. They should bow to me and prostrate before me. May Allah's curse be upon Hammon." That accursed man gave this idea. The first thing to do is to issue a command throughout the kingdom that no scholar or learned man should be allowed to teach. All education and religious teaching should be stopped. Slowly, people will become distant from their religion and ignorant of their beliefs. The children who will be born in the future will all be uneducated and unaware. In this way, the entire population will become ignorant of their religion. Following Hammon's advice, Pharaoh issued a royal decree across the entire land that no scholar or learned person should be allowed to teach anything related to religion, nor should any other kind of education be provided. He ordered that all schools and places of learning be shut down. Anyone found teaching or learning would be executed. This spread fear throughout the land. People stopped reading and writing, and those scholars who refused to comply were killed by that cursed man. As a result, it did not take long for everyone to become completely ignorant and distant from their faith. They forgot their one true Lord and began living like animals. At that time, there were two main communities in Egypt. One was the Qibtis, who were ancient Egyptians and had been living there since before Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam. The second was the Bani Israel, the children of Prophet Yaqub alayhi salam. Since one of Prophet Yaqub alayhi salam's titles was Israel, his descendants were known as Bani Israel. When the people had become completely ignorant, Hammon advised Pharaoh to now call the people towards idol worship. So Pharaoh, the cursed man, began promoting idol worship. The Qibti people easily turned toward idol worship and began following Pharaoh's teachings. However, the Bani Israel remained firm in their faith. They were still inwardly holding on to the religion of Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam. So they clearly rejected idol worship. Because of this, Pharaoh began oppressing them. He gave honor to the Qibti people and made the Bani Israel their servants. He assigned all lowly and humiliating tasks to the Bani Israel and continuously subjected them to cruelty. This situation continued for 20 years. After that, Pharaoh publicly announced, "I am your greatest Lord, greater even than these idols. So bow to me and worship me. Whoever worships me will be rewarded, and whoever disobeys will be punished." The Qibti people began worshipping Pharaoh. This state of affairs continued for 40 years. Later, Pharaoh broke all the idols and declared, "From now on, I alone am your God. Worship me only." He continued honoring those who prostrated to him and tormented the Bani Israel simply because they followed the religion of Yusuf bin Yaqub alayhi salam. Pharaoh made them pay tax and forced them to serve the Qibti people. He assigned them the most degrading tasks, such as carrying heavy loads, cutting wood, drawing water, gathering grass, sweeping streets, and disposing of filth and waste. Also sent them to villages and cities to serve the Qibti people. The women of Bani Israel were also forced to serve the Qibti women. In short, Pharaoh humiliated them in every possible way and gave them no respect or dignity. Among them was a woman named Asiya radiallahu anha. She was from the Bani Israel and was firmly rooted in the religion of her ancestors. She was well known for her beauty, manners, and noble character. Pharaoh either married her or, according to some, kept her in his palace out of devotion, treating her with great respect. But she remained steadfast in her religion and never did anything against the Sharia. Dear viewers, let us inform you that our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned the purity and high rank of 5 women, as he was the mother of Prophet Musa alayhi salam. The second was Maryam bint Imran, The third was Khadija tul Kubra radiallahu anha, the blessed wife of the Prophet sallallahu wasallam. The fourth was his own daughter Fatima Zahra bint Muhammad sallallahu wasallam. And the fifth was Aisha radiallahu anha. May Allah's be pleased with them all. All of them were righteous and pious women. So the community of Bani Israel remained under Pharaoh's oppression for a long time. Both men and women of this community were forced into servitude and hard labor. They showed patience but never turned away from their faith. Day and night they remained devoted in the remembrance of Allah. They used to stay engaged in seeking forgiveness and worshipping Allah. Viewers, behind every oppression, sin and evil act of Pharaoh, the biggest role was played by Hammon. In the history of Egypt, all the cruelty, massacres and idol worship that took place, and all the people who were killed for not accepting Pharaoh as God, these were all done under the planning and orders of Hammon. Apparently Pharaoh was the king of Egypt, but whatever Pharaoh did, he never did anything without the advice and support of his friend Hammon. In fact, behind every evil act in Egypt, it was the evil planning of Hammon that was hidden. Whatever suggestion Hammon gave to Pharaoh, Pharaoh followed it exactly. This is why in history, Hammon has been described as even more oppressive, cruel and worse than Pharaoh himself. Viewers, when Pharaoh became the king of Egypt, he said to Hammon, "I want to claim to be a god in Egypt, and I want all the people of Egypt to believe in me as their god, worship me and prostrate before me." Pharaoh asked Hammon, "What should I do so that all the people of Egypt accept me as their god?" At that time, following the advice of Hammon, preaching of the religion of Islam was banned in Egypt, and all religious schools were closed. So based on Hammon's suggestion, all the religious centers in Egypt were shut down, and preaching of Islam was strictly prohibited. With time, people started forgetting the religion of Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam. Then, to lead the people of Egypt into disbelief and polytheism, Hammon plotted to begin idol worship in every house of Egypt. Slowly, the people of Egypt were engulfed in disbelief and idol worship. They turned away from the oneness of Allah and started worshipping idols. After that, when Pharaoh and Hammon saw that the people of Egypt had completely forgotten the existence of Allah and had turned entirely towards idol worship, Hammon gave this advice to Pharaoh: "Now gather all the people of Egypt in one place, claim to be God in front of them, and command them to prostrate before you." Pharaoh followed this plan. All the people of Egypt were gathered at one place, and Pharaoh made a false claim of divinity before them. At that time, the biggest tribe in Egypt was the tribe of Kiptia, and they accepted Pharaoh as their god and started prostrating to him. In this way, Pharaoh falsely claimed to be God in front of the entire nation of Egypt, and the people began to worship him as their god. Viewers, it is mentioned in traditions that when Pharaoh falsely claimed to be God, there were still some people present whose hearts were filled with the light of faith. These were the people who still believed in the oneness of Allah. When Pharaoh found out about these people, he became extremely furious. So Pharaoh began torturing these few believing Muslims. He made them slaves and forced them to do the hardest and most difficult tasks in Egypt. They were subjected to severe torture as the oppression of Pharaoh and Hammon continued to grow beyond limits. Allah the Almighty sent his beloved Prophet Musa alayhi salam for the guidance of Bani Israel. Prophet Musa alayhi salam delivered the message of Allah the Almighty to Pharaoh and called him towards the oneness of Allah. He also forbade Pharaoh from oppressing the Muslims, but Pharaoh did not stop his arrogance and continued to torture the Muslims of Bani Israel while remaining firm on his disbelief and polytheism. It is narrated that one time Prophet Musa alayhi salam came to Pharaoh and said, "O Pharaoh, if you believe in the oneness of Allah the Almighty, your hereafter will become successful, and in this world too, Allah the Almighty will bless you with 4 special favors. Upon hearing this, Pharaoh asked Prophet Musa, "What are those 4 blessings that your Lord will give me?" Pharaoh said, "Tell me about those blessings. Perhaps I might believe in the oneness of Allah the Almighty." So Prophet Musa alayhi salam, with the command of Allah the Almighty, told Pharaoh, "If you believe in the oneness of Allah the Almighty, then the first blessing He will give you is that you will always remain healthy and will never fall ill. The second blessing is that although you are currently the king of one country, if you believe in the oneness of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, then Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala will grant you even greater kingdoms. The kingdom you now rule was given to you even while you disobeyed Allah. So just imagine if you become obedient to Allah Ta'ala, what blessings He will bestow upon you. And if you believe in the oneness of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, He will grant you not only worldly blessings but also a place in Jannah. When Pharaoh heard the words of Prophet Musa alayhi salam, he became deeply affected by them. The words of Prophet Musa alayhi salam had a strong impact on Pharaoh. Pharaoh said to Prophet Musa alayhi salam, "I will speak with my wife about this matter." Then Pharaoh went home and spoke to his wife, the pious lady. He said, "Prophet Musa alayhi salam says that if I believe in the oneness of Allah, then Allah will bless me with such and such." Hearing this, the blessed Asaya became very happy. She said to Pharaoh, "Pharaoh, for the blessings of Allah Ta'ala, one should be ready to sacrifice their very life. You should believe in the oneness of Allah Ta'ala." Saying this, she began to cry bitterly. She said, "The sun will become your crown," she continued. "There was no need to consult anyone. You should have believed in the oneness of Allah Ta'ala right there in the gathering of Prophet Musa alayhi salam. You should have accepted the truth immediately." But Pharaoh said, "I will consult my minister Hammon as well." To this, Asaya replied, "There is no need to consult Hammon. He is not worthy of giving advice in this matter." But since Hammon was Pharaoh's closest friend and most trusted minister, Pharaoh still went to consult him and told him everything. He asked Hammon, "What should I do now?" As soon as Hammon heard this, he became furious with rage. He started crying loudly and tore his clothes in anger. He threw his turban on the ground, shouted, and then said to Pharaoh, "How could Prophet Musa alayhi salam dare to say such things about you? How could he, God forbid, insult your majesty like this? Your glory is such that the entire universe moves because of you." Hammon said, "From the east to the west, everything is under your command. All the great kings of the world bow down before you. And now Prophet Musa alayhi salam dares to say that you should believe in the oneness of Allah Ta'ala." He continued to incite Pharaoh, "You want to become a lowly slave by accepting the words of Prophet Musa alayhi salam. You who are the Lord of the world, this is a great insult to you." Then Hammon said, "If you truly want to accept Islam, then kill me first, so that I do not live to see your disgrace with my own eyes." In this way, Hammon deceived Pharaoh with lies about pride and greatness and stopped him from accepting the truth. When Pharaoh heard Hammon's words, he became filled with pride and arrogance. He started thinking of himself as God and rejected the message of truth. Pharaoh followed Hammon's false advice and denied the oneness of Allah. Because of Hammon, Pharaoh was forever rejected by the court of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, and he earned a place in hell. Dear viewers, when Pharaoh's cruelty crossed all limits, and even after being warned many times, he still refused to believe in the oneness of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, and even after witnessing many signs from Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, he still did not accept the truth. Then Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala decided to punish him. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala revealed a message to Prophet Musa alayhi salam to take the people of Bani Israel and leave Egypt. So Prophet Musa alayhi salam took the nation of Bani Israel and began the journey out of Egypt. When Pharaoh heard that Prophet Musa alayhi salam was leaving Egypt with all the believers, he gathered a large army and began chasing them. He ordered his soldiers, "Do not let a single one of them live. Kill them all, God forbid." On the other side, when Prophet Musa alayhi salam and his people reached the bank of the Nile River, Pharaoh also arrived there with his army. The people of Prophet Musa alayhi salam said to him, "Today no one can save us from Pharaoh." At that moment, Prophet Musa alayhi salam comforted his people and said, "Allah wa ta'ala is with us." Then Allah Ta'ala commanded Prophet Musa alayhi salam to strike the edge of the Nile with his blessed staff. As soon as Prophet Musa alayhi salam struck the river bank with his staff by the command of Allah Ta'ala, the river split and a path was made through it. And so Prophet Musa alayhi salam and his people crossed the Nile River safely. When the path became easy for the people of Bani Israel, Pharaoh also reached the edge of the river Nile with his army. He too entered the river Nile along with his massive army. When Pharaoh and his soldiers reached the middle of the river, Allah Ta'ala commanded the river to return to its original state. So the river Nile, by the command of Allah Ta'ala, began to flow again and started rushing towards Pharaoh's army. When Pharaoh witnessed this scene and saw death coming closer right before his eyes, he screamed loudly and said, "I believe in the Lord of Musa and Harun. I have faith in the same God in whom the people of Bani Israel believe." Just then, as Pharaoh was drowning and began to supplicate, Angel Gabriel alayhi salam picked up a handful of mud and placed it into Pharaoh's mouth so that he could not make any dua or supplication to Allah Ta'ala. At that moment, Pharaoh wanted to bring faith in the oneness of Allah Ta'ala, but his faith at that time was not accepted because the punishment of Allah Ta'ala had already descended upon him and the door of repentance had been closed. Then, by the command of Allah Ta'ala, the two sides of the river Nile closed, and Pharaoh and his entire army were drowned in the river and destroyed completely. Even today, Pharaoh's preserved dead body remains as a sign and is safely kept in a museum in Egypt. And this entire incident has been mentioned by Allah Ta'ala in the Quran. "And we made the children of Israel cross the sea. Then Pharaoh and his army followed them in rebellion and enmity until when drowning overtook him. He said, 'I believe that there is no God except the one in whom the children of Israel believe, and I am among those who submit.' It was said to him, 'Now, when you used to disobey before and were among the mischief makers, today we will save your dead body so that you may become a sign for those who come after you. But surely many among mankind are heedless of our signs.'" Surah Yunus 90-92. These verses contain a prophecy from Allah Ta'ala that Pharaoh's body will be preserved so it can serve as a lesson for future generations. Those who call themselves gods should see his corpse and learn a lesson. And so the promise of Allah Ta'ala came true. His mummified body was discovered. And in 1898, when the wrapping was removed from his body, a layer of salt was found stuck on his skin, a sign that he had drowned in salty water. All the details of this process and the examination of his body were recorded in the book Royal Mummies, published in 1912. At that time, the mummy was in a reasonably well-preserved condition, although some parts had decayed. Since then, the mummy has been displayed in the Cairo Museum for visitors. His head and neck are uncovered while the rest of his body is wrapped in cloth. Muhammad Ahmad writes in Dawa Illah that the front part of his nose is missing, as if some animal had bitten it off. It is said that a sea creature had bitten Pharaoh's body, and later, by the command of Allah Ta'ala, his corpse was thrown onto the riverbank to serve as a sign for all humanity. The punishments that were sent down upon the people of Pharaoh are not just a warning for them. They are also a wake-up call for the Muslim Ummah. Today, we Muslims, almost 2.5 billion in number, across 58 Muslim countries, are suffering from humiliation and decline, and this downfall is due to Allah's displeasure and our rebellion against it. We offer prayers, perform Hajj and Umrah, give Zakat, and recite the Quran, but we do not consider interest to be evil. We think taking and giving bribes is a necessity. We consider lying and cheating to be small matter. Increasing weight in trade, dishonesty and fraud are all considered parts of business. Calling people to righteousness, maruf, and forbidding evil, nahi and il-munkar, is seen as a hurdle to progress. If these are the deeds by which we measure our success, then sitting atop the ruins of our own failure, we must await the increasing anger of Allah Wa'ala, the punishment that could be personal or collective. May Allah Ta'ala protect us all from actions that invite His wrath. Dear viewers, this brings us to the end of today's video. We hope you found it informative and beneficial. If you enjoyed the video, we kindly request you to subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so you never miss any of our upcoming videos filled with valuable knowledge. Don't forget to like the video, share it with others, and leave your valuable thoughts in the comments section. You are also welcome to ask your questions in the comments, and we will do our best to respond. May Allah keep you and your loved ones under His special protection and mercy.